So, hello students, welcome to the question number 5. Okay, now question number 5, what the question says, what is the challenge in holding Prakriti as cause? Okay, little bit, something that kind of compels you to think and write rather than just writing whatever you know from notes and things like that. Okay, so question says, what is the challenge in holding Prakriti as cause? What arguments Sankhya give in support of Prakriti? Now, the later half of the question is, as you already know, very much known to you. Only the first half, perhaps you would be thinking as to what to be written there. So, as we normally go, what is the demand of the question? So, first of all, the question has two parts or subparts. The first thing is the discussion or debate about Prakriti being caused or uncaused, whatever the debate. So you have to talk about this, caused or uncaused. Basically, you have to give the argument as to why Prakriti has to be considered something which is uncaused cause, first cause, independent entity, and things like that. Okay, and substance in itself. What is the problem if we hold Prakriti as cause? Second is arguments, and that argument that we normally have as in the form of 5 proofs or arguments, whatever you want to call it. Now, most of you have got confused as to whether proof and arguments are the same thing in support of Prakriti, right? Now, this is 10 marker, right? So this is what the demand of the question is. Now, how would you go about it? So because it is 10 marker, as you already know, we'll have kind of 2 pages. You'll write intro, then you'll write subheading 1, subheading 2, critical comment if any, and conclusion, right? Now, what would be the introduction? Now, introduction is basically about Sankhya, talking about Sat Karyavad, also talking about dualistic realism. Okay, so this particular dualism is very important aspect that you should mention in introduction, and also mentioned about that being atheistic but astic. This much is enough. Okay, Prakriti being the very important aspect. Okay, Prakriti being the one of the what we can say independent, they don't use word substance, but independent entities of which everything is made up of, kind of thing. Now, then first subheading will be Prakriti as uncaused or caused, whichever subheading accordingly you write. Second is proofs for Prakriti or arguments for Prakriti. Then in critical comments, there will be some critical comments. There will be some 2-3 comments, and then you will write conclusion. Now, once you know the structure, then it will be very easy for you to write. Now, what would you write in the Prakriti as uncaused? Basically, you start with, as we already mentioned, Satkaryavad means effect pre-existing in cause. So, effect cannot be cause of itself, right? So, Prakriti is the primal thing. Prakriti by definition here You mentioned Prakriti by definition is Prakriti, that is before creation. So anything before creation cannot have anything before it, because if anything before Prakriti, that also can be, that also should be called as Prakriti by the very meaning of the word Prakriti is that's what the argument is coming up, right? So first and foremost, Prakriti is Prakriti, that is before creation. So before creation, basically before creation means it's a, in this Satkareva point, it's a first cause. Now when you say first cause, there cannot be a cause before first cause, because if you say there is a cause before first cause, what actually you are saying is that the cause before first cause is itself Prakriti. So basically, theoretically, by meaning itself, because it is first cause, because effect cannot be cause of itself, so cause and effect has to be separate. So world is there means there is some cause, things are there means there is some cause, and that cause, that is the link of cause and effect, if you go back, stop somewhere, that stop itself is called Prakriti. Okay, and if you consider Prakriti being uncaused, sorry, Prakriti caused, then what happens? Infinite regress. One thing is, it's not possible by very meaning of the word. Now, if at all you consider that, what happens then? What is the cause of that cause? Then what is the cause of that cause's cause? So you keep on repeating that, you will never stop. So it's the infinite regress, doesn't make any philosophical sense, logical sense. Okay. So another thing about potentiality, actuality. So actuality, potentiality means vyakt, avyakt. So Prakriti is avyakt, right? Now if it is avyakt, means it is not effect. So Prakriti is avyakt, right? Now avyakt means what? It is not effect, because effect means anything in the vyakt form, explicit form. So if Prakriti is avyakt, means Prakriti is not effect, means Prakriti cannot have cause. Cannot have cause, that is, anything that has cause is called effect. If anything is not effect, it cannot have cause, right? And another thing, Prakriti is independent. So if Prakriti has to be independent, it cannot be caused. If it is caused, it's become dependent. So Prakriti cannot be dependent. So these are the arguments, these are the problems while holding Prakriti as caused, and hence Prakriti is uncaused. Now what are the proofs of the Prakriti? What is to be written here? Some of you got confused. The answer to this part of the question is very straightforward. That is, you already know the 5 things: Vednam Parinamat, Samanvayat, Karyat Pravritti cha, okay, Karyakaran Vibhagat, and Avibhagat Vishwarupasya. So these arguments, it is clearly written in the book also. All things are limited. So everything, Vedanam Parinamat means everything that is different from each other is a creation. It's a Parinam, transformation of what? That means something goes back to something which is not transformation, that is Prakriti. Then Samanvayat, how everything is so much having in so much of sync, Samanvay, so much of coordination because of the gunas and things. That means there is some central thing of which everything is part, everything is product in a way. So that is the reason there is some coordination between the two. Okay. Then potent cause. So everything has some effect. That means there is some cause. This is the argument that we use here. So cause of cause of cause of cause means there will be something which is absolutely cause of nothing, that is uncaused cause, that is Prakriti. Okay, then world is, or universe is such a big thing. Universe in itself is only one. Okay, Abhibhagat Vishwarupasya means universe in itself is one. That means its cause is also something one, that is Prakriti. Okay, so these are the straightforward arguments that are there in the book also, notes also, everywhere. So these are 5 arguments. You should actually, it's always preferred that you should use all the Sanskrit terminology that they have used here. Okay, Vednam Parinamat, Samanvayat, Karyatah pravritti cha, then Karyakaran Vibhagat and Avibhagat Vishwarupasya. Okay, universe as one. Avibhagat means unity. Vibhag is difference. Avibhag means unity. So Avibhagat Vishwarupasya means the world or the universe is undivided in a sense. Oneness, unity. Critical comments. Okay, the first and foremost critical comment is Prakriti seems to be just abstraction. Mere abstraction. Okay, mere abstraction which actually takes away the particularity of things, takes away the concreteness of the things. So it's like chair is also Prakriti, kind of transformation of Prakriti. Table is also transformation of Prakriti. Anything else is also transformation of Prakriti. So to say that it's a mere abstraction or imagination, because there is nothing in that particular context available. Second is that Prakriti and Purush dualism is also a problem, because as far as Ramanuja is concerned, Brahma Parinamvad means Prakriti and Purush both are actually, Brahm is only transform itself into Prakriti and Purush. So to say that Prakriti in itself is a different substance doesn't make any sense. And the relation between the guna and the Prakriti, like for example, you say Prakriti is nothing but 3 gunas. So Prakriti in itself is guna only. There is nothing in Prakriti which is over and above guna. So that is not properly explained as to what Prakriti is. Okay, and Prakriti as guna, whether Prakriti and guna are the same, one and the same thing, it is yet to be kind of kept explained, or it is not explained properly. Then to consider, it's like it is there is this argument called the definition. It's like a rhetorical argument, or argument that gives, assumes its own conclusion is assumed, okay, in the premises only. So what we are saying, Prakriti means something which is the first cause, and then you are saying Prakriti is uncaused. So it is like, assuming the conclusion. This is assuming the conclusion is considered to be a legal logical fallacy, where you assume the conclusion in the premises only. Okay, so when you say Prakriti, when you say by definition, by meaning of the word, by definition of, by mere definition of the Prakriti, it proves, that it is uncaused. But the point is, it's like this: you're saying something is uncaused, and then you're saying it is uncaused. So Prakriti means first cause, then first cause has to be uncaused. So then you are saying Prakriti is uncaused. So it's not established. It's like assuming the conclusion fallacy is what Prakriti is having. Okay, then comes conclusion. This much will be enough for the 10 markers. Then comes conclusion. Then conclusion, you talk about how metaphysics of Sankhya not only gave rise to or contributed to the metaphysics and the praxis of yoga school, but it also gave theoretical contribution to Ramanuja's philosophy in the form of Satkaryavad. Then it also gave it also contributed to the conceptualization of Dvait philosophy of Madhva, and also finds the mention in Gita, as we already know. So we can talk about Sankhya school and Prakriti Purusha argument in general being a very important, very contributing kind of thought process, contributing kind of philosophy. Okay, that's all for this question. Let's go to the second part of the question, which says what proof Sankhya gives. Now it is about proof of Purusha. Now the way it was before, it was Prakriti, now it is proof of Purusha, existence of Purusha, and which among them automatically. Now, when I say automatically, or that means logically, no need to have further explanation, proves plurality of Purusha. Plurality of Purusha means it's a big debate. Okay, 10 marks. Plurality of Purusha means there are many Purusha, not only one Purusha. So plurality of Purusha कैसे explain करता है? Same thing again. We start off with okay, you'll write something in intro. There will be subheading 1, and there will be subheading 2, then there will be critical comment, and then there will be conclusion. Now, what would be subheading here? Okay, what would be the introduction? Again, here introduction would be about basically Sankhya, then again being for dualism, Prakriti and Purush, and some one statement talking about Purusha being the consciousness, that is self-illuminous. Sorry, self-illuminous. Okay. Okay. Then two absolute realities and all that. Then comes what question is asking, proofs for existence of Purusha. That will be our first subheading, proofs for existence of Purusha. Then second will be plurality of Purusha. Okay. Plurality of Purusha. Then critical comments and then conclusion. These two are very important because that's how your answer will be made kind of reader friendly, evaluator friendly. The moment evaluator reads it, he or she will find it easy for you to give more marks. So it will be very much structured properly. Okay. Now, so proofs of, like the proofs of Prakriti, there are also proofs here. That is also clear cut, and that's what you have to write here. One is Sanghat Parartatvat. Okay. This is there in the notes also, and this is there in the books also. Sanghat Parartatvat. Okay. Then comes Trigunadi Viparyat. Okay, if you practice, it will be very easy. In fact, these words, if you practice it in the form of trying to understand the meaning also, it helps a lot. Adhisthana. Then comes Bhoktatra Bhavat and Kaivalyartham Pravritti. So, Bhoktartha, Bhavat and Kaivalyartha Pravritti. These are the arguments. What are the meanings? Now, Sanghat Parartatvat means everything exists, even matter, that is Prakriti, everything. For what sake? Towards what purpose? Serving whose purpose? This is teleological. So that purpose is Purusha. Then comes if Prakriti is made up of 3 gunas, means there is something beyond 3 gunas. Okay. So Trigunadi Viparyayat means something beyond it. So it's a logical argument. If Prakriti is 3 guna, means there is something beyond 3 guna. Okay. Then comes Adhisthana. Now Adhisthana means it's an ontological argument, because if there is a process of knowledge, means knower is assumed automatically. Without knower, there is no knowledge. So Even if you may not have the knowledge of the knower, you at least know that the process of knowing is happening, means there is knower. Just ontology, this is called ontological argument. So this is knower means ontological argument, that by the very process of knowing, the knower is established. Then comes, okay, bhoktatra bhavat means who is the bhokta of all that. It's an ethical argument, like who enjoys or who suffers. So the enjoyer and the sufferer. Enjoyer and the sufferer is what? Prakriti in itself is not intelligent. So who enjoys? The enjoyer is intelligent principle, that is Purusha. And then comes liberation. So Kaivalyartham. So whose liberation? So liberation, this is very religious kind of argument. Okay, or you can mention soteriological argument. Soteriological argument means arguments related to salvation. So these 5 arguments prove that there is Purusha. So Purusha is there. That's what they are saying. Now, out of this, which argument automatically assumes that there is a plurality of Purusha? Now you think, first and foremost, towards this. Okay, so basically the teleological argument, because there are many objects in the world, the manyness of Prakriti proves manyness, because now Prakriti is existing for sake of Purusha. So there are many Prakritis, many aspects in Prakriti, means there are many Purushas. So the first argument do help or do kind of support automatically. Second is beyond Triguna. This argument, logical argument, doesn't support. In fact, it supports that there might be only one Purusha, because everything is made up of many. So logically speaking, there is something one behind the many. So second argument doesn't automatically prove that it is automatically doesn't prove that it is plurality of Purusha. Adhisthana, knowledge presupposes knower, means now there are knowledge is also continuous process, or process of knowing also happens in many aspects. Okay, knowledge also many, so Purusha also many, because knowledge of one, like for example, if there is one Purusha, so knowledge of one, if I have some knowledge, automatically someone else doesn't get the knowledge. That means Purusha is not one, they are disconnected or they are separate. That's the reason we have to do the coaching, because if I know, automatically you will not know. Okay, so knowledge process is are many, so Purusha are many. So certainly Adhisthana argument kind of helps. Then comes the Bhokta argument. Now Bhokta argument also doesn't support in that way, because there are many things in the world, but Bhokta can be still one intelligent principle, may not be many. It can be only one intelligent principle. If at all, Prakriti has to be guided. Prakriti doesn't need guidance from all the Purushas. So it's not logically, automatically proving it. But Kaivalyartham, it is, yes, it proves. How? Because liberation of one is not liberation of all. Okay, that means plurality of Purusha is proven. Okay, so these are the arguments. So 3 arguments among the 5 clearly say that, automatically say that Purusha are many. Now criticism. Now here criticism is very important, because it's very strong critical comment. You know, this Samkhya school is heavily criticized by, or very logically also criticized by others. First and foremost is that the Samkhya are making, or kind of confusing between transcendental Purusha, okay, that is Purush, simple Purush, and empirical Purusha. It is called Sopadik Purush. Now this Sopadik Purush is what some of the Sankhyas, later Sankhya themselves have talked about. So what they are saying is, basically now we know the process, there is Prakriti. Okay, Purusha sees its reflection into the Prakriti and mistakes, blah, blah, blah. So this reflected Purusha is what empirical Purusha is what Sopadik Purusha is. It is also called phenomenal ego. No, phenomenal is about appearance, how it appears. So this confusion, this is a very strong criticism against them. Okay. Second, what Shankara says is, okay, this same argument, he says Purusha or consciousness cannot be many, cannot be, but only one, and that is Brahm, ultimate consciousness. Now, why? Because consciousness, if you are saying one Purusha, now please pay attention to this. If one Purusha is exactly same like other Purusha and the other is exactly same like third, basically what you are saying is all are same. Basically, if all are exactly same, means all are one only. What would individualize them? If one is different than other, okay, if we want to separate one entity from the other, the entity should have some particularity, some uniqueness. Now, particularity and uniqueness means difference. Okay, like for example, if there are two Purushas, P1 and P2, what makes this P1 and makes this P2? Because they have something in common, that is Purusha, but something different also, which this has, this does not have. This is called particularity or uniqueness. Okay, without particularity and uniqueness, you cannot individualize. समझ में आ रहा है? So if you cannot individualize, means you cannot separate. You basically are talking about the same thing. So they are actually same things. Basically, there is only one Purusha, and that is Brahm. So Jivo Brahmeva na para is the strongest argument. Okay, so transcendental, yes. So empirical egos may be many because that is illusion, that is appearance. But what we can say, the transcendentally, really speaking, ultimately speaking, Purusha is only one. Consciousness can only be one. It's like this, saying that there are many energies. No, energy is only one. Even in science, this is for sake of understanding. Don't mention these things in answers. Like we say, law of conservation of energy means what? Energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. Basically, it's only one energy. It might manifest. It might get kind of expressed, get transformed into some or the other form. But energy in itself is one. Nothing goes out, nothing comes in the energy. So basically, energy of the universe is only one energy, right? It gets divided, it gets in a way divided as in physically, mechanically, but it gets manifested in different ways. Okay, so that is the logic they are putting here. Like for example, with respect to us, all the sun rays, there might be infinite number of sun rays, but ultimately what is this sun rays? Nothing but sun only. It is sun only. Sun rays is for practical purpose. We say, okay, it's this sun ray or that sun ray. Some sun ray that is falling here, that is another falling is here. Ultimately, it is the same sun of which everything is manifestation of. So that is the logic they are putting here. So this is the criticism about plurality. Basically, here, because of the time constraint, it's just a 10 marker. Space constraint. Plurality of Purushas criticism, which is a very strong criticism, should be prioritized. If you want to write one more statement about general criticism of Sankhya school, about its dualism and things like that, you can mention that also. Okay, and conclusion. Now, conclusion is about, you can, as we had discussed in the last question also, you can compare also in conclusion. You can do summarizing also in the conclusion. You can conclude also in the conclusion. Now, when the question is of type that, what do you think, or is it logical, is it consistent, then conclusion should have answer to that question. But okay, the question is about some complexities that need to be bound together in the end. So that could be kind of a summarization. If question is straightforward, then you write something positive about the school, then criticism about the school, then it's always better to write something contributory about the school, like how Sankhya school contributed to the overall philosophy field, and what specific, what peculiar that they came up with, which stayed during the course of philosophy, time of the philosophy. Like for example, in conclusion, you talk about Satkaryavad being the contribution, the biggest contribution of Samkhya school, and also the whole metaphysics of Prakriti and Purusha is also kind of used and or kind of utilized, okay, in the rest of the philosophical schools that Indian philosophy has. Or you can draw comparisons as in the jivas of Jainism, or this monads of Leibniz, the spiritual atoms they talk about, are similar kind of conceptualization as Purusha are. But further, this was kind of refined and corrected by Advait philosophy and followed by Aurobindo. Aurobindo also came up with Satchidananda as one, and all the matter, everything goes back to Satchidananda. There are no two realities, only one reality, Satchidananda. Even matter is also part of Satchidananda and all that. Okay, so that much in the conclusion will be more than enough. So that's all for the question number 5. See you in question number 6 discussion. Thank you.